Before we can start talking about negative exponents, we first have to start with positive exponents. A common mistake or misconception is that this particular problem here, 10 to the third power, does not equal 10 times 3. Okay. The bottom number here is called your base, and the little number up here is called an exponent. And together, it is called a power. So there's just a little bit of vocabulary for you. What this means is 10 is being multiplied by itself 3 times. So no matter what your base is, that's the number that you're going to multiply, and the exponent is going to tell you how many times you're going to multiply that number. So, for example, this is read either 10 to the third power or 10 cubed. What it means is I'm going to multiply this 10 3 times because the exponent is a 3. And 10 times 10 times 10 is 1,000. So 10 to the third power is 1,000. In order to recognize negative exponents, it's easiest to look at it in terms of patterns. This, we just found out, means 10 times 10 times 10 times 10, which is 1,000. 10 squared, or 10 to the power of 2, or 10 to the second power, means 10 times 10, which is 100. 10 to the first power just means it's multiplying 10 one time, which is just 10. 10 to the 0 power is one that usually causes some difficulties. But look what's happening to each of the numbers as I decrease its power. From 1,000 to 100, I've divided by 10. From 100 to 10, I've divided by 10. To keep this pattern going, if I divide 10 by 10, if I divide 10 by 10, I get an answer of 1. And that is in fact true. 10 to the 0 power is equal to 1. In fact, any whole number to the 0 power, I guess any counting number, not including 0, any counting number or any natural number to the 0 power would be 1. To keep that pattern going, if I take 1 and divide it by 10, I get 1 divided by 10. To take the next one and divide that by 10, I now get 1 over 100. To do it a third time, I now have, divide by 10, it's 1 over 1,000. Woo, 1,000. Okay. Another way you can look at this is if it's a negative exponent, I'm going to make it 1 over, and then instead of 10 to the negative 1, it's just 10 to the first power. If it's 10 to the negative 2, that's equivalent as 1 over 10 squared, which is the same as 1 over 10 times 10, which is equal to 1/100th. 10 to the third power would really mean 1 over 10 to the third, which is the same as 1 over 10 times 1 over 10 times 1 over 10, because we're multiplying it 3 times, which gives me 1,000th. The last little bit, in this particular unit, they're going to give you some form of 10 to a negative exponent. You're going to have to write both a decimal as well as a fraction equivalent. The fractions could look like 1 over 10 to the 5th. It could look as 1 over 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. Or they could actually show it as 1 over 10 times 1 over 10 times 1 over 10 times 1 over 10 times 1 over 10. Or 1 over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because any 10 to that particular power has that many zeros. So any one of these could be the fraction that they're asking for that's equivalent to 10 to the negative 5. The other piece is they'd have to ask for a decimal. Reading this one right here will give you the decimal answer. And in this case, I have 100,000th. So that's equal to 0, tenths, hundredths, thousandths, 10,000ths, 100,000. So the 1 is going to go into the 100,000ths place. I'm going to fill in with zeros. This is the only decimal that they're probably going to give you. However, any of these could be the fraction equivalent. So you have to know both the fraction as well as the decimal for this particular unit.